Have you wondered how Half-Life 1 looked if it was combined with survival and building mechanics and also co-op? No, I'm not talking about Sven co-op. Did you think how the universe looked if Gordon Freeman didn't exist? Well, this game has the answer. Abiotic Factor is a survival crafting game that you can play with up to 6 players the entire time. This game resembles so much with the classical Half-Life, having some nostalgia from it, but also it's so much different from Half-Life. This game is pretty recent, it's a few months old. The game offers many great and interesting mechanics like driving, player creation, skills, environment reactivity, and so much more. First, this game is early access, but this doesn't mean it's just a shell with a nice paint. On the contrary, in comparison with many early access games, you have so much content in this early access. Around 30 to 40 hours of gameplay, depending on how you play. If you explore the maps, talk to NPCs, etc., and the developers keep updating the game regularly. Small patches to fix the game, but also big updates related to the content of the game to expand it even more. Before jumping into the story, you must create your character. First, the appearances, nothing out of the ordinary. The basics can be changed, like the face model, hair, shirt, and shoes, but add some nice details to customize, like the tie fabric, the belt, the ID card, and also the voice of the character. This voice you will hear many times around the game. The character will react to different things like bleeding, the temperature, etc. The voice selection consists of the male and female voice. Next, you must decide your job. This job or profession, it's like a role that the player can choose for his character. Each job comes with benefits and disadvantages. You can choose from 9 professions like Defense Analyst that focuses on combat but has slow learner traits, or you can pick the Bionomicist that has more traits to be a better medic for the team, and so on. After choosing your job, then you can play with the traits that the game has to offer. These skills or traits are permanent buffs and debuffs to your character. Some skills give the player a head start in some domains. If you wish to have more skills to spend, then you must trade for some negative traits. A few examples are Wrinkly Brain Meat that offers plus 20% XP gain, or the self-defense trait that offers plus 3 melee weapon damage. And some negative traits are Asthmatic that makes the player lose stamina 40% faster than others, or the Dry Skin trait that makes the thirst accumulate faster. First, let's talk about the premise of this game. Like in Half-Life, the story revolves around a research company underground. The scientists from this company developed a way to teleport to another universe. All is well and good until one day the Resonance Cascade happened. A catastrophic containment breach that turned the research company into a battle zone infested with many enemies. Also, this day coincides with the day our protagonist starts his first day at work. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? The game starts in a car that leads the player to the underground complex. After he is dropped, the player has the option to explore a little bit of the surroundings. The first interaction the player can have if he explores is to take a dump. This leads to a minigame, but we'll talk more about his interaction and the purpose behind it, and the rest of many mechanics the game has to offer. The first minutes are the training that teaches the player the basic mechanics to move, to interact with the object around him. And I mean it when I say you can interact with many things around the map. And it also teaches the player how to craft and how to come up with new recipes for crafting. The story revolves around the scientists that are trying to escape the complex by any means necessary. Along the way, the players will encounter many enemies, but also many NPCs that you can interact with to learn more about what happened in the complex. You can also learn more about the lore from interacting with different objects like holograms and emails. Also, the world building is very well done. It's clear that they followed Valve footsteps to tell a story by using the environment, not only the NPCs. The protagonist will be taken around many sectors that are subdivided. The first level is the opening area of the game. In this sector, you will find the cafeteria, the manufacturing labs, the plaza, and of course, the tram. The second level is more complex, because of the many locked doors and tougher enemies. Here you can find the maintenance lift, the residence, the data storage, and the reception. The third level, and the last one for now until further updates, this level is made up of silos, executive restroom, and the executive offices. Manufacturing West map. It's above the underground complex. You will also hop on a moving train and enter different worlds. The variety of the maps is great. They don't just lock you in one biome. To proceed to the next level, the players must complete different puzzles in the form of different obstacles. For example, the first obstacle is to open the doors to the plaza zone. For that, you need an energy brick. To craft one, you need to gather the necessary materials. After that, you need the crafting bench that needs to be connected to a power source. This is the first encounter. The rest are gonna be more complex than the previous one. Before talking about the gameplay aspects, let's talk a little bit about the graphics and sound design. The textures of the game are creating nostalgia for those who played Half-Life 1. The low pixelated design truly brings you to an old era of games, but the sound is not that great. In fact, it's pretty worse. Each record for the NPCs sounds like it was registered in different places, and not good ones with proper equipment to record. Some of them sound like they were recovered in someone's basement or in the attic.
Okay, you're the transfer, huh? You sure picked a day. Things a bit hectic downstairs this morning. Just grab your gate pal there. It'll help you get sorted.
We're done here. There's some stuff on this list, but I don't reckon you're gonna need it. That's why you've got people like me around. Keep you safe. Looks like I gotta check on some situation topside. So, yeah, head to the elevator. It'll take you down to residences. Real cozy stuff. Clipboard here.
You need to open the door. Now!
The soundtrack is okay, nothing fancy, it matches the world design. Also, another thing to discuss are the enemies that you'll encounter. Throughout the game, you will face many types of enemies from humans to robots, so you don't have to worry that there won't be a variety of enemies. The first enemies that the player will encounter are the carbuncle, which resembles the barnacle from Half-Life 2, the pest that takes the place of the headcrab from Half-Life, but also unique enemies like the composer that looks like Slenderman, grunts that you can tell from the name that they are made after the grunts from Half-Life 1, and so many more enemies. There are around 25 enemies in the game, and many more will be added through future updates. Now, about the mechanics that the game has to offer are really interesting. They work very well with the environment. Being a survival building game, you must interact with many things around you to build the necessary things to survive. To learn new recipes, you must play a little bit of the game. You must try different materials to create an item. For example, to have the recipe for the crafting bench, you must choose between 5 potential materials to use in order to have completed it. Only then you have the possibility to craft and use the bench. Each idea for a recipe is different. You may need more materials or less. Another way to get your hands on a recipe is by reading emails from the terminals around the map. This leads to a great exploration mechanic. It pushes the player to explore not only for materials to craft an item, but also to find new recipes. Some buildings require a screwdriver and a hammer to dismantle the objects. You could even create a teleporter to travel instantly to your base. You can also craft different objects to provide protection to your base: walls, barricades, turrets, mines, etc. Now for the survival mechanics, they are the simple ones that you may find in survival games, but the developers modified them to integrate in this world so well and also not feel too tedious for the player. On the contrary, some of them being a little funny. The player has 4 needs that need to be taken care of all the time: hunger, fatigue, thirst, and the first interaction that I've mentioned at the beginning of the video is the toilet needs. The first 3 are the simple ones: eating, sleeping, and drinking. The last one, the player needs to take a dump, and you will have a minigame to complete, and in sleep, you also have another minigame to make this mechanic more entertaining than the usual go to sleep. Press a button, then wait for the screen to be black. Also, the player must take into account dangerous environment, the temperature, either being too cold or too hot, and the radiation from the surrounding environments. A cool detail is that the character reacts to them. This game has a day-night cycle. This is not the simple sunny day and night day. The developers used this basic mechanic in something more. The power of the complex goes out at 9 PM and comes back at 6 AM the following day. During the day, the world is normal, but at night, things change. Most of the lights will go out. The wall torch, desk lamps, or standing lamps will continue to work normally. Besides the lights, the temperature will begin to drop. And also, the security robots will start patrolling the complex. This may lead to some funny encounters between NPCs from different factions, aliens fighting the robots, or the players getting caught fighting the robots and grunts. Another cool mechanic is the enemy raids. Randomly after some time, random faction enemies will attack your crafting bench. This crafting bench is also like the core of a base, so this means that they will attack your safe zone. These raids are called portal storms. These storms spawn enemies around your base, and there are different types of storms that are unlocked by progressing the campaign. The players can craft portal suppression fields to stop these storms around their base. And yes, a mechanic that many like is the driving. You can drive in this game on specific maps. In conclusion, Abiotic Factor is truly an early access game that tries to gather feedback from the community, and this is seen with each update they make. The game creates a nostalgia for the original Half-Life because of the developers' decisions to create a world that resembles so much of Half-Life. The textures, the plot, places, etc. But not too much that it's not unique to be something by itself. Even more impressive is that this game is still in early access and has so much to offer. And you don't need to wait long for content updates to be released. It has been seen how the developers behind this game really love what they do, and they do it with love for this game, but also with love for the community.